Hey guys, it's Kerry Lee Smith. Let's face it, we all want to be healthier and happier in life, but we all have a tendency, or most people have a tendency, to over control. Today what I'm going to teach you is what to control so that the result is more health for yourself and long-lasting happiness over the long term so you can sustain it. And you don't need outside circumstances to give you better health and good long-lasting happiness. So let's first talk about your purpose. A lot of times we feel as though we're living off purpose, or we're frustrated and we keep trying to seek and search what is our purpose in life. I can tell you, these 5 things are going to pull you away from your purpose. First is disease. Now when I'm talking purpose, I'm talking the universal plan for you or each individual. When you have disease is there for you as a gift to see and to challenge you to be able to keep your mind on focus, or your physical body, in good health, and your mental attitude in positivity. What are you doing with disease? How are you handling disease when disease comes and visits you? Because it visits all of us. How do you handle fear? Fear is a huge challenge for all of us. When you're in a fearful situation, do you allow the fear and the situation to control you, or are you able to create and muster up that courage to face fear on so that you can live into this purpose? This is this whole framework that I'm going to teach you today. Hang with me, because you're going to pop through somewhat in the middle and you're going to see what happens. So you have fear. Number 3 is failure. Of course, when we fail, what's taking you down? Do you allow the failure to take you down and you go in your room, crawl on a ball, and cry and feel sorry for yourself? Or do you look at the failure and go, well, I learned one way not to do it? What are you doing with failure? What are you doing with money? Are you allowing money to control you? Doesn't matter if you have money or if you don't have money, because eventually what ends up happening is you get nicer and nicer things, and that's relative. And that nice thing that you start acquiring, maybe it's a car and someone door dings you, and now you're like, and you start getting upset, and you maybe use curse words and you're really upset. But here's the deal. All of a sudden, that car is now in control of you because money is now in the way. So don't allow outside circumstances to control. Where are you finding your happiness? In things like the car or the money? What's our purpose? Our purpose is long-lasting health and happiness. And number 5 is ultimately happiness. Now, when you master these 3 areas, these areas dissipate and they don't control you anymore. These areas are your mental, your physical, and your spiritual life. What do I mean by this? Your mental life is your mind mastery. I teach all about that in Thought Detox and in my coaching. So mind mastery, how is your mental state? Is your mind in control of you, or are you in control of your mind? Your physical state, are you physically strong? Are you physically at your utmost best? And spiritually, are you growing further and further? And is your happiness getting deeper and deeper and more robust? Well, let me tell you, there's only 2 truths in the world, and we want to know what's real in the world, and there's only 2 things that are real: sorrow and happiness. And now that sounds so basic, but let me tell you, simple is usually the way. The truth is, sorrow and happiness are what's only real. But here's the funny thing that's not so funny, is sorrow is actually not really real. You make sorrow real in the mind. Let's think about that for a second. Because situations happen, and you in your mind, in your mental state, when it's out of balance, is what's going to make sorrow happening. Because suffering ends in a moment. And in that moment, it only is because you decided to strengthen the mental mind, which proves that sorrow is not real. Sorrow is only there for you to experience suffering. Now that sounds so maybe mean, because there's a lot of suffering going on in the world and there's a lot to it. But when you're in sorrow, it's because the mental mind isn't strong. Happiness is there because the soul and who you are is meant to be happy. I believe that you were put here on earth to experience life and find the joy in all situations. Now, some people are like, oh, well, easy for you to say. No, it's pretty much easy for anyone to say, because I believe that we were here not to suffer, but to experience happiness. And it's your choice to find, are you going to feel what's real is the sorrow, or are you going to challenge and find happiness in all situations? Now, sorrow and happiness. Okay, so let's go into this. With sorrow, the reason why we have sorrow is because we want to be the hero in a situation. So maybe you have a situation where, you know, someone was sick and you feel as though you were going to be the one to be able to heal them or something like that, and you ended up not, and you fell short. Well, then sorrow is going to set in. What about courage? When you have courage, sorrow will set in. Now, courage is always extremely important. Courage, just like being the hero, is very dangerous. Are you going to let it control you, or are you going to control it? So if you have the courage to be able to, like myself, start my own business, that took a lot of courage, and sometimes I fall short and I feel sad and sorrow sets in and I suffer, make myself suffer. But here's the deal. When I step up and I don't allow the courage to control me, I'm able to bust a move and take the next step. So sorrow sets in when courage takes the best of you and you fall short. And also the character of who you are. So a lot of times what happens is we're growing up and we have this big character revelation of who we want to be when we grow up. And then all of a sudden we grow up and we're not that person. Sorrow sets in, suffering then sets in. So what does that mean? That you are the prisoner of your own mind. That's why it is so critically important that you train your mind so that you can free yourself from the prisoner of the mind and experience long-lasting happiness and good health. So what does that mean? That when you are the prisoner of the mind, fear and anger set in. And when fear and anger set in, let me tell you the character traits that are going to take over: jealousy, spite, revenge, insanity, and guilt. And when you feel these emotions, not that emotions are bad and not that these experiences are bad. Life is happening for us, not to us. When you're experiencing these, it's just the universe saying, hey, let's get on purpose. Remember at the very beginning on the other page, let's get on purpose. There's only two things that are real: sorrow and happiness. Sorrow is taking you down to where you're feeling these feelings. Let's go ahead and work ourselves back over to happiness. Don't let anger and fear take over. When you feel angry, here's just 3 simple remedies. Take a cold shower. Or put cold ice on your forehead or on your temples, on the back of your neck, basically on your head, top of the crown, third eye. It's literally, you know, when people say you're hot-headed, you literally cool it down. Or just remove yourself and don't speak. Because a lot of times when anger is there, we say things that are not kind, and you will regret it later. So don't allow the anger to control you. So let's jump over to happiness. Happiness is mind mastery, meaning when you fall short of these things, then your mind is strong and you know your next forward move, or you know to be present and to listen. Mind mastery. Your mind knows how to be silent on call. You have inner wisdom and you know that all the answers are from within. So you feel comfortable sitting in silence and understanding that eventually you will know your next move because it's going to resonate true to you. Number 3, you know that love conquers all. And you follow that rule and that law that love conquers all. And happiness is basically based in love. Or it is. And then 4, you know how to vision. You know how to vision positivity, you know how to be optimistic in situations because you can visualize and you know the power of visualization. And when you have this, what ends up happening is you are calm in all situations. Now, when there's a storm, do you want the person who's frantic and crazy and angry and fearful, or do you want the person who's calm? Of course, the person who's calm. Consequently, those people tend to be happier in life. You also want the person who creates peace in situations. They're not creating turmoil between everyone. They're finding peace in the situation and between people. And you always want to do your best. The best today is different than tomorrow, so don't be so hard on yourself. Do your best, and then God will do the rest. Now, if you don't believe in God, that's cool. The universe, higher power, or, just do your best, and God, and the universe will do the rest. And then, so the ultimate question is, what do you control? And that's what this whole video is about. So let me tell you, there's one thing that you need to learn how to master and control, and no, it's not the mind, and it's going to create happiness, and it's a tool that I teach, and it's extremely important. It's controlling concentration. Now, why? Because when you know how to control your concentration and be very laser focused, then all of a sudden, anger can't get you, frustration can't get you, fear can't get you, none of the negative emotions can get you, nor can extreme ecstasy. You are peace and calm amongst the storm. Concentration is so key. How do you develop good concentration? You sit quietly and you focus and control the mind. Now, people call that meditation. I do too, but let me tell you something in meditation. A lot of people close their eyes and drift off. That's not controlling concentration and making your mind strong. I'm about making the mind and that muscle strong so that you can create strong concentration in your mind, so that when adversity comes, you know how to handle it because you have the strength of the mind through laser concentration. So I'm Kerry Lee Smith, and I will see you next week at kerryleesmith.com. Go check me out. And I teach Thought Detox Academy, where you can strengthen the mind and know how to mind mastery the thoughts that are taking you down.